if you love Captain America, Steve Rogers, or the actor Chris Evans who plays Captain America, he is in this movie. It's Pain Hustlers, which is currently playing. What? It's Pain Hustlers.
That's the setup. Okay. And if you love Mary Poppins.
Right. Yeah. Come on. All right. Pain Hustlers is playing currently on Netflix. It is loosely based on a true story about a pain medication that broke the rules. It's the selling of a pain medication. Emily Blunt is also in the film. She plays a young woman who is struggling, literally living in the garage with her daughter, trying to make it as a stripper. So if you want to see Emily Blunt stripping, it's in the very beginning of this film. She ends up finding a client at her strip club named Pete Brenner, played by Chris Evans. He works for a prescription drug company. They've gotten approvals for this drug, which was invented by a doctor named Jack Neal, played by Andy Garcia. They have this small drug company, but even though they've gotten approvals to sell the drug and have it prescribed, all these other types of drugs have taken over the marketplace. This drug is specifically for people dealing with pain from cancer. And Emily Blunt, being a salesperson, because she's kind of a salesperson, working as a stripper, she picked up sales skills, learning to sell herself effectively to men for dances and whatnot. And she cleans herself up, puts on a more business-minded dress, and she ends up selling the first prescription to this drug and then gets doctors behind it. They do these things where they get someone to promote the drug. There's this Dr. James that they work with who gives a presentation, and they get these doctors, they take them out to these vacations in like Hawaii. They get them plastered with alcohol and like shrimp, food like shrimp and steak and lobster, and then they basically sell them on the concept that you need to start prescribing our drug for pain. They end up becoming friends with these doctors, and she then enlists an army of young, attractive women to sell these drugs to doctors. And you see the sort of BS of the prescription drug industry and how, like they've got all this merch that they give the doctors. They become friends with the doctors. And this movie is, I would describe it as, at least in tone, it's trying to be the Wolf of Wall Street, but with prescription drugs. Does that make any sense? So it's like, look, it's a big party. Well, of course, they break a few rules on selling these drugs, and the whole house comes tumbling down. I mean, this is all in the trailer. I thought it was fun. I thought it was very good. This is also one of those things I look at and I think to myself, I would almost rather see a more serious-minded documentary than something like this that's dramatized. And it wants to be Wolf of Wall Street, but doesn't go too far. I will say,
the way you're describing it sounds like it's a comedy more than it is.
It is.
I think I want to see a Wolf of Wall Street rather than a comedy based on this.
Right. What I'm saying is it is partially a comedy, but it goes down some dark roads, because what happens is there's some, I don't want to get into too much detail. There's something wrong with the drug. The problem is, if you're prescribing to basically cancer patients that are not going to live very long, you're not going to get a lot of complaints from your clients because they're no longer alive. And so there are all these after effects from all these side effects from these drugs. In fact, there's another movie, I believe it's actually called Side Effects, that deals with this very topic, that came out over a decade ago. And it's called Side Effects, and it's about, and it was, I met the director at the time, this was years ago, but she actually did this job where they get young, very attractive women to be the salespeople. They're the forward, front facing to doctors. And they're flirting with these doctors. They're bringing them gifts. They're talking about their lives. They become friends with them. And by the way, please, write prescriptions to my drug that I'm selling. But this one, it is borderline comedy. But Chris Evans seems to be on a mission to completely erase everything about playing Captain America. As Pete Brenner in the movie, he has this accent, so he's talking like this. He talks completely different. He's kind of a scumbag. He's sort of the scumbag shyster, and just like what can we do? I don't care if it's illegal. Let me worry about that. Let's just close the sales, because the company at the beginning of the movie is bordering on bankruptcy. They have no money. They have nothing, but they're following the rules. So I'll say this: I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. It's definitely sort of a, you could watch it as a double feature with Wolf of Wall Street. But I think what I did like about the film and appreciate it is it deals with a very serious issue, which these prescription drug companies, they might be a little corrupt. They might be prescribing you drugs you don't need. They might be prescribing you drugs that have side effects that may be worse than the symptoms you're experiencing.
So you're saying that pharmaceutical companies are trying to convince the entire world to take their drug when they know it may not do any good and it may actually hurt you.
Yes.
That seems so far-fetched to me.
And it's a comedy. So look, I'm giving it a recommend, and I was just like, do I want to? I'll check it out, and because this subject interests me. There have been a lot of abuses of these prescription drug companies. What I would like to see in pairing with Pain Hustlers is I'd like to see a documentary. I want to see something that really takes on this topic in a serious way that actually leads to change. Going back, a documentary that came out years ago that I'm a huge fan of, and I ended up becoming friends with the filmmaker, Morgan Spurlock. Morgan Spurlock did a movie called Super Size Me, and he came up with the idea for this movie during Thanksgiving dinner, and the very next year, 1 year from that date, after coming up with the idea for this movie, he got a phone call from Sundance that he was in the festival. True story. I know Morgan Spurlock. I interviewed him in my book, The Ultimate Film Festival Survival Guide. I haven't written an update of that book because I don't know how much you really need that book now. That information's kind of out there. You have things like Film Freeway to get your movie in festivals, whatever. All I'm saying is I know Morgan Spurlock, so he made this movie, Super Size Me. It changed fast food. I mean, it changed the industry where now they put the nutrition information on the. Now, have Americans changed their diets of fast food? Not exactly, but you watch that movie. I've definitely, post that film. I haven't stopped eating fast food, but I have dramatically cut my consumption down of fast food. A couple times a month, it's a treat, but it's something that clearly changed things. There needs to be a documentary that's powerful enough that it changes things. Will it get made? Probably not. The problem with the documentary films that we see these days is they're all funded and have an agenda. Before the filmmaker even finishes making the movie, they've determined what the premise of the movie is, whether it's something on...
Yeah, it's determined the outcome of the
correct. Whether it's something on the left or whether it's something on the right. So political documentaries are very, very polarized. I'm looking for a documentary filmmaker that's like, I don't know what the truth is. Let's go on a journey together. That's what Morgan Spurlock did. We need more of that. I would like to see Pain Hustlers. I want to know the real story behind Pain Hustlers. And they show the outcomes at the end of what happened to all of the characters. Not going to spoil it because I've already been scolded earlier for spoiling. I'm saying you'll see the outcomes of this in this story, but how close was the reality to this fictionalized version of the story, which looked like a lot of people had a very good time. It's all the fun parts of Wolf of Wall Street.